Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship watching the stars through the main window. His hands were steady on the control panel, but his mind was not calm. The message from Earth Command had arrived 3 hours ago, and he still could not believe what it said. Admiral Lisa Carter had sent the same order to every human ship in space. Come home. Leave everything behind. Do not make any noise about it. Jake looked at his crew working around him. They had been serving on the exploration vessel New Horizons for 2 years now. They had mapped 17 new star systems and found 3 planets that could support life. The Galactic Council had taken all their reports and filed them away without much interest. The aliens always acted like human discoveries were not important. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner walked up to Jake with a worried look on his face. Alex had been with Jake since they first joined the Council missions. He was a good officer and an even better friend. Alex handed Jake another message pad and spoke quietly so the rest of the crew could not hear. Captain, I just got word from the other human ships in this sector. They are all getting the same orders. Admiral Carter wants every human vessel back. In Earth space within 60 days. No exceptions. Jake nodded slowly. He had expected this day would come eventually. For the past 5 years, humanity had tried to be good members of the Galactic Council. They had followed every rule and protocol. They had shared their technology freely. They had offered help during 3 different crisis situations. Each time, the alien species had treated humans like children who did not understand how the galaxy really worked. Dr. Amanda Brooks entered the bridge carrying a large data case. She was the chief science officer for the human contingent on Nexus Station, the huge space station where the Galactic Council met. Amanda had been recalled along with all the other human diplomats and scientists. She looked tired and frustrated. Captain Morrison, I need to speak with you privately, Amanda said. Jake followed her to his ready room. Amanda set down her data case and sat heavily in a chair. She had been working with the Council's Science Division for 3 years. Her research on quantum shield technology had been groundbreaking, but the aliens had dismissed it as too simple to be effective. Jake, I need you to understand something before we leave this sector. I have been trying to warn the Council about a serious threat for 8 months now. There are signs that the Void Hunters are waking up. Jake felt his blood turn cold. Every spacefaring species knew stories about the Void Hunters. They were ancient machines that had destroyed entire civilizations millions of years ago. Most people thought they were just legends. Are you sure about this, Amanda? I am completely sure. My deep space sensors have detected movement in the void zones. The energy signatures match everything we know about Void Hunter technology. I tried to present my findings to the Council Science Committee, but they said my data was probably wrong. They told me humans do not have advanced enough sensors to detect such things. Amanda opened her data case and pulled out several report files. Her hands were shaking slightly as she handed them to Jake. I am leaving copies of all my research with you. If something happens to me, make sure Earth Command gets these files. The Void Hunters are not just legends. They are real, and they are coming back. Jake took the files and promised Amanda he would keep them safe. As she left his ready room, Jake wondered if the Council would regret ignoring human warnings. On Nexus Station, Ambassador Peter Hayes was cleaning out his office. Peter had represented humanity on the Galactic Council for 4 years. He had attended countless meetings and debates. He had watched alien diplomats make decisions that affected billions of lives without asking for human input. Now he was packing his belongings in simple cardboard boxes like any office worker ending a job. Peter's assistant, Maria Santos, was helping him pack files and personal items. Maria had worked with Peter since he first arrived at Nexus Station. She understood the political games better than most humans. She also understood why Earth Command had decided to recall everyone. "Ambassador, the Zephyrian delegation wants to meet with you before you leave," Maria said. Peter shook his head. "Tell them I am too busy packing. I do not have time for their fake goodbyes." The truth was that Peter did not trust himself to remain polite during such a meeting. The Zephyrians had been the worst when it came to dismissing human contributions. Their council representative, Veltar, had openly laughed during Peter's last presentation about trade route security. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was also packing her laboratory on Nexus Station. Elena had been the human representative on the council's Technology Assessment Board. Her job had been to evaluate new discoveries and recommend which ones deserved funding for development. In 3 years, the board had approved exactly 0 human proposals. Elena's research into defensive systems had been rejected as too focused on conflict. Her work on faster communication methods had been dismissed as unnecessary given current systems. Her breakthrough in energy efficiency had been ignored because it was too simple to be revolutionary. Now Elena was carefully packing her research notes and data cores. She would not leave any of her work behind for the aliens to steal and claim as their own discoveries later. As the human ships prepared to leave council space, very few alien species paid attention. The general attitude among council members was that humanity had finally realized they were not ready for galactic civilization. Some alien diplomats even seemed relieved that the primitive species would no longer clutter up their meetings with irrelevant concerns. Counselor Veltar of the Zephyrian delegation was having lunch with his aide when the topic of human departure came up. Veltar found the whole situation amusing. "I always said the humans would eventually give up and go back to their little planet. They never understood that real diplomacy requires patience and wisdom. Humans are too young as a species to participate in serious galactic governance." Veltar as aide, a younger Zephyrian named Keksan, seemed less certain. "Sir, should we be concerned about losing their perspectives? They did have some interesting ideas about defensive preparations." Veltar waved a dismissive hand. "Their ideas were based on fear and paranoia. We have maintained peace in this galaxy for over 200 years through careful negotiation and mutual respect. The humans wanted to militarize everything. Good riddance to them." Similar conversations were happening throughout Nexus Station. The hegemony delegates thought humanity had been useful for manual labor tasks, but nothing more. The Kethmori Empire representatives had never considered humans worth talking to in the first place. The smaller council species mostly followed. The lead of the major powers, not only a few alien individuals, seemed concerned about humanity's departure. Dr. Zixara, a hegemony scientist who had worked with Amanda Brooks, tried to convince her superiors to ask the humans to stay. Her requests were denied. Captain Yellman of the Council Defense Force had valued human tactical insights, but his opinions carried little weight in political circles. As the last human ships left Council space, Jake Morrison took one final look at the star charts of the region. His people had spent years mapping these systems and identifying potential threats. Now they were going home, leaving the aliens to face whatever dangers might emerge from the darkness between stars. Jake wondered if the Council would survive without human warnings and human preparedness. He suspected they would find out soon enough. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and humanity had been the only species taking those dangers seriously. The New Horizons jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying Jake and his crew toward Earth. Behind them, the lights of Nexus Station grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared completely. The silent departure was complete. 6 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. Life on Nexus Station continued as if nothing important had changed. The alien delegates went to their meetings, made their speeches, and voted on their resolutions. The empty seats, where human representatives once sat, were now used for storage or given to minor species, who rarely spoke during debates. Counselor Veltar was reviewing trade agreements when his aide, Keksan, rushed into his office with urgent news. The young Zephyrian looked worried as he handed Veltar a datapad containing the latest intelligence reports. "Sir, we have a serious problem. The Kethmori Empire has launched military operations against 3 neutral systems. They claim the systems belong to them by ancient right, but our historical records show no such claims." Veltar studied the reports with growing concern. The Kethmori Empire had been aggressive in the past, but they usually limited their expansion to uninhabited systems. Attacking established colonies was a major escalation that could lead to war. "Have the Kethmori responded to our diplomatic protests?" Veltar asked. "They sent a formal reply this morning. Emperor Kethanox says that the council has grown weak and that strong species must take what they need to survive. He claims that the old treaties are no longer valid." Veltar felt a chill run through his body. The peace that had lasted for 2 centuries was being shattered by Kethmori ambition. Without thinking, he almost reached for his communicator, too. Contact the human delegation for their military advice. Then he remembered that the humans were gone in the council chambers. An emergency session was called to address the Kethmori crisis. Representatives from 50 different species gathered to debate their response. The chamber buzzed with nervous energy as delegates discussed the implications of the attacks. Counselor Zaxiel of the Hegemony stood to address the assembly. The Hegemony was one of the most powerful council members, and their words carried significant weight. Zaxiel was an elderly alien who had served on the council for over 30 years. "Fellow council members, we face our greatest challenge in generations. The Kethmori Empire has violated every principle of galactic law. We must respond with strength, but we must also be wise in our actions." Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. However, when it came time to propose specific actions, the debate quickly bogged down in procedural arguments and jurisdictional disputes. Some delegates wanted to impose economic sanctions. Others called for a strongly worded diplomatic protest. A few suggested sending peacekeeping forces to protect the threatened systems. Dr. Yexara, who had taken over some of Amanda Brooks' research responsibilities, tried to raise concerns about the Council's military readiness. The Hegemony scientist had continued Amanda's work on defensive systems, but without human insights, progress had been slow. Council members, our defense capabilities may not be sufficient to deter Kethmori aggression. We should consider activating some of the older defense systems left behind by previous civilizations. This suggestion sparked intense debate. The Council had access to various defensive technologies left behind by extinct species, but using them was considered risky. Most Council members preferred to rely on diplomacy and economic pressure rather than military force. Counselor Melton of the Traders Guild spoke up from his seat near the back of the chamber. The Traders Guild represented dozens of merchant species who depended on safe travel routes for their economic survival. "If we do nothing, the Kethmori will see our weakness and attack more systems. My people are already reporting that trade ships are being harassed in border regions. We need to show strength now, or we will face much larger problems later." The debate continued for hours without reaching any concrete decisions. Committee after committee was formed to study different aspects of the crisis. Subcommittees were created to study the committees. The council bureaucracy ground into motion with all the speed of a glacier. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was monitoring galactic communications from her new laboratory in Geneva. Elena had been appointed as Earth's chief intelligence analyst for galactic affairs. Her job was to keep human leadership informed about developments in Council space. Elena's equipment was more advanced than anything the Council had access to. During their time with the Council, humans had quietly developed superior sensor and communication technology. They had shared some of their innovations, but had kept their most advanced systems secret. As Elena reviewed the intercepted council communications, she became increasingly alarmed. The alien delegates were discussing activating ancient Forerunner defense systems. Elena knew from her research that the Forerunners had been an advanced civilization that had disappeared mysteriously over 1,000,000 years ago. Elena immediately contacted Admiral Ben Crawford at Earth Defense Command. Admiral Crawford had been skeptical about the decision to leave the Council, but recent events were proving that humanity had made the right choice. "Admiral, we have a serious problem developing in Council space. The aliens are talking about activating Forerunner defense protocols to deal with the Kethmori Empire." Admiral Crawford leaned forward in his chair. He was a veteran officer who had served in space for over 20 years. His experience told him that ancient alien technology was usually more dangerous than helpful. "Elena, what do we know about these Forerunner systems?" "Not much, sir. Our archaeological teams found some Forerunner ruins during our exploration missions, but the Council classified most of our findings. What I can tell you is that the Forerunners were paranoid about external threats. Their technology was designed to eliminate any potential danger to their civilization." Admiral Crawford felt a growing sense of unease. He had learned to trust Elena's analysis during their time working together on Council projects. If she was worried about the Forerunner systems, then there was probably good reason for concern. "Do you think we should warn the Council about the potential dangers?" Elena considered the question carefully. Part of her wanted to help prevent a galactic disaster, but she also remembered how dismissively the Council had treated human warnings in the past. "Sir, we tried to warn them about many things before we left. They made it clear that they do not value human opinions. If we contact them now, they will probably assume we are trying to interfere with their internal affairs." Back on Nexus Station, the debate about activating Forerunner defenses was gaining momentum. Councilor Zaxil had convinced many delegates that desperate times required desperate measures. The Kethmori Empire had attacked 2 more systems while the Council debated their response. Dr. Yexara tried once more to raise concerns about using untested ancient technology. She had been reviewing some of the research files that Amanda Brooks had left behind. The human scientist's notes contained warnings about Forerunner systems, but most Council members had dismissed Amanda's work as irrelevant. Council members, I believe we should proceed very carefully with Forerunner technology. Dr. Brooks, research suggested that these systems might have significant risks. Councilor Veltar responded with barely concealed irritation. He was tired of hearing about human research and human warnings. The humans were gone, and it was time for the Council to solve problems without their interference. Dr. Yexara, I appreciate your caution, but we cannot base our decisions on the outdated fears of a species that abandoned their responsibilities to this Council. The humans left because they could not handle the complexities of galactic governance. We must make our own choices now. The vote to activate Forerunner defense protocols passed by a wide margin. Only a few delegates voted against the measure, mostly representatives from smaller species who had little political influence. Commander Ryan Phillips was leading a human patrol fleet near the edge of what used to be Council space when he received new orders from Earth Command. Ryan had been monitoring the situation with the Kethmori Empire, and he suspected that things were about to get much worse. The orders were simple but urgent. Begin immediate evacuation of human colonies and allied settlements in the buffer zones between Council space and human territory. Provide assistance to any friendly species who wanted to relocate to safer areas. Ryan had served under human command during the Council years, and he understood the implications of these orders. Earth leadership expected major conflict to break out soon. They were preparing to protect human interests while staying out of the coming war. As Ryan's ships began evacuation operations, He wondered if the Council truly understood what they were about to unleash. The Forerunners had been powerful, but they had also disappeared completely from the galaxy. That suggested their technology might be more dangerous than the Council realized. On Nexus Station, technicians were working around the clock to activate the ancient Forerunner control systems. The technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also completely automated. Once activated, the systems would operate according to their original programming. Nobody on the Council bothered to fully analyze what that programming might include. The Kethmori Empire struck without warning on a Tuesday morning, Council Standard Time. Emperor Kethanox had grown tired of diplomatic delays and economic sanctions. His fleet of 300 warships appeared simultaneously at 3 different Council worlds, catching the defenders completely unprepared. Councillor Veltar was having breakfast in his quarters on Nexus Station when the emergency alarms began blaring throughout the massive space station. His aide Kexan burst through the door without bothering to request permission to enter. "Sir, we are receiving distress calls from Hegemony Prime, Trader Station 7, and the Zephyrian colony world of Valanash. All 3 systems are under attack by Kethmori forces." Veltar dropped his eating utensil and stared at Kexan in shock. The Kethmori had been making threats for months, but nobody expected them to attack 3 major Council worlds at the same time. This was not a border skirmish or a territorial dispute. This was full-scale war. "How many ships are they using?" Veltar asked as he quickly put on his official robes. "Initial reports suggest over 100 vessels per target system. Our local defense forces are heavily outnumbered. The Kethmori are using some kind of new weapon technology that is cutting through our shields like they do not exist." Veltar felt his heart racing as he rushed toward the Council chambers. The emergency session was already beginning as delegates arrived in various states of panic and confusion. The large display screens showed real-time footage from the 3 attack sites, and the images were horrifying. Kethmori warships were systematically destroying orbital defense platforms and bombing civilian targets on the planet's surfaces. The Council's defensive forces were fighting bravely, but they were clearly overwhelmed by the size and power of the attacking fleets. Councillor Zaxiel stood at the center of the chamber, his usual calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled fear. The elderly hegemony representative was watching his homeworld burn in real time on the main display screen. "Fellow Council members, we are facing an existential threat to our civilization. The Kethmori Empire has declared war on everything we stand for. We must activate the Forerunner defense protocols immediately." Dr. Yexara tried once more to raise concerns about using the ancient systems. She had spent the past week studying every available piece of information about Forerunner technology, and what she had learned made her very nervous. "Councillor Zaxel, I must urge caution. The Forerunner systems are completely automated. Once we activate them, we will have no control over their actions. My research suggests that these systems may interpret threats more broadly than we intend." Councillor Malton of the Traders Guild stood up and pointed at the display screens showing burning cities and destroyed spaceports. His voice was shaking with emotion as he addressed the chamber. "Dr. Yexara, look at those screens. Our people are dying right now while we debate theoretical risks. We need those Forerunner systems online immediately, or there will be no Council left to worry about their side effects." The vote was unanimous, except for 3 abstentions. Within minutes, technicians were rushing to the deep levels of Nexus Station where the Forerunner control systems had been installed decades earlier. The ancient technology had been dormant for so long that most Council members had forgotten it even existed. Captain Steve Baker was monitoring galactic communications from the human outpost at Kepler Station when the Forerunner systems came online. Steve had been tracking the Kethmori attacks through intercepted military transmissions, but what he saw next made his blood run cold. Massive energy signatures were appearing throughout Council space. Ancient installations that had been hidden for millions of years were suddenly broadcasting activation signals. The power readings were unlike anything in the current galaxy. "Lieutenant Colonel Santos, you need to see this immediately, Steve." Santos had been coordinating evacuation efforts for human settlements in the border regions. She was exhausted from 3 days of non-stop emergency operations, but the urgency in Steve's voice brought her running to the sensor station. "What am I looking at, Captain?" "Those are Forerunner installations coming online across 17 different star systems. The power output from each site is equivalent to the total energy production of a major industrial world. I have never seen anything like this." Maria studied the sensor readings with growing alarm. During her time serving with the Council fleet, she had learned to recognize the energy signatures of most known technologies. These readings were completely different from anything in the current Galactic database. "Captain, I think we need to contact Earth Command immediately. If the Council has activated some kind of ancient superweapon, our evacuation timeline just became much more urgent." The first Forerunner fleet emerged from a hidden base in the neutral zone between Council space and Kethmori territory. The ships were unlike anything seen in the modern galaxy. They were massive constructs that seemed to be built from some kind of dark metal that absorbed most sensor scans. Emperor Kethanox was commanding his invasion fleet from his flagship when his tactical officer reported the appearance of unknown vessels on the edge of the battlefield. "Emperor, we are detecting 12 large ships of unknown configuration. They do not match any known Council designs." Kethanox studied the tactical display with interest rather than concern. He assumed these were some kind of secret Council weapon that had been rushed into service. The Kethmori Empire had faced many different alien technologies during their expansion wars. Target the unknown vessels and destroy them. We will show the Council that their secret weapons cannot save them. The Kethmori fleet fired a full spread of their most powerful weapons at the lead Forerunner ship. The energy beams and missile warheads struck the dark hull without causing any visible damage. The Forerunner vessel did not even slow down. Then the Forerunner ship returned fire. The weapon that emerged from the Forerunner vessel was unlike anything in known technology. It was a beam of pure energy that seemed to tear holes in space itself. When it struck the Kethmori flagship, the massive warship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was only empty space. Emperor Kethanox and his entire crew were vaporized without even having time to realize what had happened to them. The remaining Forerunner ships spread out and began systematically destroying every Kethmori vessel in the system. Their weapons were so advanced that the battle was over in less than 10 minutes. 300 Kethmori warships were reduced to space dust and debris. On Nexus Station, the Council delegates watched the destruction of the Kethmori invasion fleet with mixed feelings of relief and terror. The Forerunner systems had worked exactly as intended, but their power was far beyond anything the Council had imagined. "Perhaps we should send orders to deactivate the Forerunner systems, now that the immediate threat has been eliminated," suggested Dr. Yexara. Counselor Zaxil shook his head. "The systems are completely automated. We have no way to communicate with them or control their actions. They will continue operating according to their original programming." As if to confirm his words, reports began arriving from across the galaxy. Forerunner fleets were emerging from hidden bases in over 30 different star systems. The ancient installations were not limiting their attention to Kethmori targets. The Forerunner artificial intelligence systems had been programmed to eliminate threats to galactic stability. Their definition of threat was based on analysis of military capabilities, territorial ambitions, and historical conflict patterns. The AI systems began scanning every spacefaring civilization in the galaxy and evaluating their potential danger levels. Within hours, Forerunner fleets were moving toward targets throughout Council space. The hegemony military was classified as a potential threat due to their large fleet and history of territorial expansion. The Zephyrian colonies were targeted because of their advanced weapons technology. Even the peaceful Trader Guild worlds were marked for evaluation because of their extensive communication networks. The Council had activated a system designed by a paranoid civilization that had ultimately destroyed itself through excessive security measures. The Forerunners had built their defense systems to eliminate any potential threat, no matter how small or distant. Commander Ryan Phillips received emergency orders from Earth Command as the scope of the Forerunner activation became clear. Human intelligence networks were reporting Forerunner movements throughout the galaxy, and the pattern was becoming obvious. All human vessels are to withdraw immediately to minimum safe distance from any Forerunner installations. Ryan read from his orders. Begin immediate evacuation of all personnel from mixed species facilities. Prepare for possible extended conflict situation. Ryan looked at his tactical officer with grim understanding. The Council had unleashed something that they could not control, and everyone in the galaxy was now in danger. As reports continued arriving from across Council space, it became clear that the Forerunner systems were not just targeting military threats. They were systematically evaluating every aspect of galactic civilization and finding most of it lacking in security terms. Deep beneath the surface of an unremarkable asteroid in the Ross 128 system, Colonel Dan Mitchell received the activation signal he had been waiting for. The message was simple, but carried the weight of years of careful planning. Haven Protocol is now active. Begin operations immediately. Dan had been commanding the hidden human installation, known as Deep Rock Station, for 18 months. To anyone scanning the asteroid from space, it appeared to be a simple mining operation extracting rare metals for Earth's industrial needs. In reality, Deep Rock was one of 47 secret facilities that humanity had built during their time with the Galactic Council. The Haven Protocol had been developed by human military planners who understood that Earth's position in the galaxy was potentially dangerous. While human diplomats made speeches about peace and cooperation at council meetings, human engineers and scientists had been quietly preparing for the day when that cooperation might break down. Dr. Rebecca Turner was working in her laboratory, 3 levels below the main command center when the activation signal arrived. Rebecca had been dismissed from the Council's Science Division for proposing defensive technologies that were considered too aggressive for peaceful species. Now her quantum shield research was humanity's best hope for surviving what was coming. Colonel Mitchell, my shields are ready for field testing. We have enough quantum generators to protect about 200 ships, assuming they stay in tight formation. Dan nodded as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports from Earth Command. The Forerunner fleets were moving systematically through Council space, destroying anything they classified as a potential threat. Several minor species had already been completely eliminated, and the larger Council powers were struggling to mount effective resistance. Dr. Turner, how confident are you that these shields will work against Forerunner weapons? Rebecca looked at her test data one more time before answering. She had spent 3 years studying every available piece of information about Forerunner technology, including classified archaeological reports that the Council had tried to suppress. Colonel, the quantum shields create a displacement field that should deflect or absorb energy-based attacks. The Forerunner weapons appear to work by disrupting atomic structures, but my shields operate on a subatomic level. I believe we have a good chance of success. While Dan and Rebecca prepared their defenses, other hidden human installations were activating across the galaxy. Each facility had been designed to serve a specific purpose in humanity's secret preparation plans. Admiral Tony Garcia commanded the largest hidden base from his position aboard the stealth ship Silent Guardian. Tony's base was actually a mobile facility built inside a converted asteroid that could move between star systems without being detected by most sensor arrays. Tony had been tasked with rescue operations, and his ships were already moving toward systems where civilian populations were trapped by advancing Forerunner fleets. The aliens who had dismissed humanity as primitive were about to discover that humans were very good at helping people in danger. Captain Edwards, what is the status of our rescue fleet? Captain Luke Edwards consulted his tactical display before responding. Luke commanded a squadron of ships that appeared to be civilian transports, but were actually heavily armed rescue vessels designed for operating in hostile territory. Admiral, we have 24 ships ready for immediate deployment. Each vessel can carry up to 5,000 refugees, and all ships are equipped with the new quantum shield generators. We should be able to evacuate significant numbers of civilians from threatened worlds. The rescue operations began within hours of the Haven Protocol activation. Human ships appeared at worlds throughout Council space, offering evacuation services to anyone who wanted to leave. Many alien species initially refused help from the humans they had previously scorned, but as Forerunner fleets drew closer, survival became more important than pride. On the hegemony colony world of Praxis 7, Governor Hexal was coordinating the planetary defense when human ships appeared in orbit. The governor's first instinct was to order the humans to leave immediately, but his military advisor convinced him to at least listen to their offer. Captain Sandra Wilson commanded the human rescue ship New Hope. She had volunteered for the dangerous mission despite knowing that many of the people she was trying to save had treated humans badly during the Council years. Governor Hexal, this is Captain Wilson of the human vessel New Hope. We are offering immediate evacuation for any civilians who want to leave your world. Our intelligence indicates that Forerunner forces will arrive in the system within 6 hours. The governor hesitated for several minutes before responding. Accepting help from humans would be embarrassing for his political career, but losing millions of civilian lives would be catastrophic. Captain Wilson, how many people can your ships evacuate? We have room for approximately 50,000 passengers per ship, and we have 12 ships in this system. We can begin evacuation operations immediately if you grant permission. While rescue operations continued across the galaxy, other human installations were revealing capabilities that shocked the remaining Council forces. Dr. Kelly Foster was working from a hidden base inside what appeared to be a routine scientific research station. Kelly had been studying Forerunner technology for over 4 years, using archaeological data that the Council had classified as unimportant. Her research had focused on understanding the command and control systems that operated the ancient war machines. Commander, I think I have found something important in the Forerunner database fragments we recovered from that archaeological site. On Kepler Prime, Commander Tim Ross had been assigned to protect Kelly's research facility. Tim was a veteran intelligence officer who understood the strategic importance of Kelly's work. What did you find, Dr. Foster? Kelly pulled up a complex diagram on her main display screen. The Forerunners built shutdown codes into all of their automated systems. They were paranoid about their own technology turning against them, so they created ways to deactivate everything if necessary. Tim felt a surge of hope for the first time in days. Can you access these shutdown codes? I believe so, but I need to get closer to a major Forerunner installation to interface with their control systems. The codes are buried deep in the AI programming, and I need direct access to retrieve them. As Kelly worked on decoding Forerunner control systems, other human scientists were making their own discoveries. The years of quiet preparation were revealing themselves as a comprehensive plan to protect not just humanity, but any species willing to accept human help. Ambassador Peter Hayes was now working from Earth Command headquarters in Geneva, coordinating diplomatic efforts with species that had previously ignored human attempts at communication. Peter's new role was to manage relationships with alien governments that were suddenly desperate for human assistance. Admiral Crawford, I have received formal requests for aid from 17 different council species. They are offering full military alliance agreements in exchange for protection from the Forerunner fleets. Admiral Ben Crawford studied the diplomatic proposals with mixed feelings. Part of him wanted to reject the pleas from species that had treated humanity so badly, but he also understood that the current crisis affected everyone in the galaxy. Peter, what is your assessment of these alliance offers? Sir, I believe we should help anyone who needs it, regardless of their past behavior toward us. However, we should also make it clear that these new relationships must be based on mutual respect and equality. The most surprising aspect of humanity's hidden preparations was the discovery that they had not been working alone. During their time with the Council, human diplomats had quietly built relationships with dozens of smaller species that were also marginalized by the major powers. The Altarian Collective had provided advanced sensor technology in exchange for human assistance. With their industrial development, the Vegan Republic had shared their expertise in defensive systems while learning human organizational methods. The Centauri Federation had worked with humans on developing faster communication networks. These quiet alliances were now revealing themselves as a comprehensive network of cooperation that had been operating beneath the Council's notice for years. The species that the major powers had dismissed as unimportant were now working together to face the Forerunner threat. Dr. Amanda Brooks was coordinating the Alliance efforts from a secure facility on Earth's moon. Amanda had returned to human space with detailed knowledge of Council military capabilities and detailed plans for defensive cooperation. The combined fleets of our allied species total approximately 800 ships of various classes. Most of them are equipped with human-designed quantum shields and improved weapon systems. We have a real chance of mounting effective resistance against the Forerunner forces. Admiral Crawford listened to Amanda's report with growing amazement. Humanity had spent years appearing weak and submissive while secretly building the foundation for galactic defense. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had actually been the most prepared for this crisis. The message arrived at Earth Command on a Tuesday morning, transmitted through emergency channels that had not been used since humanity left the Galactic Council. Admiral Sarah Murphy was reviewing fleet deployment reports when her communications officer informed her that they were receiving a priority transmission from the surviving Council leadership. Admiral, the message is from Counselor Veltar of the Zephyrian delegation. He says he is speaking on behalf of all remaining Council species. Sarah had been expecting this moment for weeks. As the Forerunner fleets continued their systematic destruction of galactic civilization, the aliens who had once dismissed humanity were finally ready to ask for help. The question was whether humanity should provide that help. Put the message through to the main conference room. Alert all senior staff to attend immediately. Sarah walked to the conference room where her senior officers were already gathering. These were the people who had planned humanity's secret preparations and coordinated the rescue operations that had saved millions of lives across the galaxy. Admiral Ben Crawford arrived with the latest casualty reports. The Forerunner campaign had destroyed over 60% of all spacefaring vessels in the galaxy and had eliminated several species entirely. Only areas protected by human quantum shields remained relatively safe. Sarah, before we listen to their message, I think we need to discuss our options. We have the capability to help them, but we also need to consider whether that is in humanity's best interests. Dr. Amanda Brooks entered the room carrying a datapad with intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Amanda had been coordinating with the various human intelligence networks to track Forerunner movements and assess the overall strategic situation. Admirals, Dr. Foster believes she can access the Forerunner shutdown codes, but she needs to get close to their central control hub. That hub is located in the core of Nexus Station, which is currently surrounded by over 200 Forerunner vessels. As the senior staff settled into their seats, Sarah activated the communication system to play Veltar's message. The Zephyrian diplomat appeared on the main screen, but he looked very different from the arrogant politician who had once dismissed human concerns. Admiral Murphy, I am speaking on behalf of the surviving members of the Galactic Council. We know that we have no right to ask for your help after the way we treated humanity, but we are desperate. The Forerunner systems are destroying everything we have built over thousands of years. Veltar paused for a moment, and Sarah could see the weight of responsibility and regret in his expression. We made a terrible mistake when we activated the ancient defense systems. We ignored human warnings about the dangers, just as we ignored human advice about so many other things. Now we are paying the price for our arrogance, and innocent people are dying because of our failures. The message continued with a formal request for human assistance in stopping the Forerunner fleets. Veltar offered complete political and military alliance, including full equality for humanity in any future galactic government. After the message ended, the conference room was quiet for several minutes as the human leadership considered their response. The decision they made would determine the future of galactic civilization. Admiral Crawford spoke first. Sarah, we have the capability to help them, but we need to be realistic about the costs. Any mission to shut down the Forerunner systems will be extremely dangerous, and we will be risking human lives to save people who treated us badly. Dr. Eleni Rodriguez had joined the meeting via video link from her intelligence center. Elena had been monitoring Forerunner activities and tracking their expansion patterns. Admirals, I believe we need to consider the long-term implications. If we allow the Forerunner systems to continue operating, they will eventually expand beyond Council space. Earth itself could become a target within a few years. Sarah listened to the debate among her senior staff, but she had already made her decision. The choice was not really about politics or revenge. It was about what kind of species humanity wanted to be. Everyone, I appreciate your input, but I think the decision is clear. We help them because it is the right thing to do, and because we are better than they were. Dr. Foster, what do you need to access those shutdown codes? Dr. Kelly Foster had been working around the clock to decode the Forerunner control systems. Kelly had discovered that the ancient machines had multiple layers of security, but she believed she could bypass them with direct access to their central hub. Admiral Murphy, I need to physically interface with the main Forerunner control system. Inside Nexus Station. The quantum encryption cannot be broken remotely, but I can access the shutdown protocols if I can reach the central computer core. Captain Luke Edwards volunteered to lead the mission to Nexus Station. Luke had been conducting rescue operations throughout the crisis, and his ship was one of the few vessels that had successfully penetrated Forerunner defensive perimeters. Admiral, my team has the most experience with Forerunner tactics. We can get Dr. Foster to the control hub, but we will need significant support to fight our way through their defenses. Sarah nodded and began planning the most important military operation in human history. The mission would require coordination between multiple human fleets and their alien allies, and success was far from guaranteed. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner was assigned to command the technical support team that would help Dr. Foster access the Forerunner systems. Alex had worked with advanced alien technology during his time with the Council, and his expertise would be crucial for the mission's success. Dr. Foster, what exactly will we find when we reach the control hub? Kelly studied the technical specifications. She had compiled from various archaeological sources. The Forerunner control system should be located in the center of Nexus Station, probably in a heavily shielded chamber. The interface will be unlike anything we have seen before, but I believe I can adapt our quantum computers to communicate with their systems. The assault on Nexus Station began at dawn, Earth Standard Time. Admiral Sarah Murphy commanded the operation from her flagship, the newly commissioned vessel Human Pride. The fleet included 50 human ships and over 100 vessels from Allied. Species. Captain Jake Morrison led the first wave of attacks against the Forerunner defensive perimeter. Jake's ship New Horizons was equipped with the most advanced quantum shields available, but even so, the mission was extremely dangerous. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. We are beginning our approach to Nexus Station. Stay in tight formation and maintain shield overlap. These Forerunner weapons are unlike anything we have faced before. The battle for Nexus Station was fierce and chaotic. Forerunner vessels emerged from hidden positions throughout the system, their ancient weapons, carving through space with devastating precision. However, the human quantum shields proved effective, and the Allied fleet was able to advance steadily toward their target, Dr. Rebecca. Turner monitored the shield generators from her position aboard the New Horizons. Rebecca's quantum field technology was performing better than expected, deflecting Forerunner energy beams that would have destroyed any unprotected vessel. Captain Morrison, our shields are holding steady at 92% efficiency. We should be able to maintain protection for the entire fleet during the approach. As the Allied fleet fought its way toward Nexus Station, Luke Edwards led a small group of ships directly toward the station's docking bays. Luke's mission was to get Dr. Foster and her technical team inside the station so they could access the Forerunner control hub. Dr. Foster, we are approaching the station. Are you ready for this? Kelly checked her equipment one final time. She was carrying quantum computers and interface, devices that she hoped would allow her to communicate with technology that was millions of years old. Captain Edwards, I am as ready as I can be. Let us go save the galaxy. The interior of Nexus Station was a maze of damaged corridors and emergency lighting. The Forerunner occupation had left most systems offline, but the central computer core was still operating under ancient programming protocols. Alex Turner led the technical team through the station's maintenance tunnels, following Kelly's directions toward the Forerunner control hub. They encountered automated defenses along the way, but their quantum shields provided protection against the ancient security systems. Dr. Foster, I am detecting massive energy readings from the level below us. I think we have found the control hub. Kelly nodded and began setting up her interface equipment. The Forerunner control chamber was filled with technology that seemed to blend organic and mechanical components in ways that human science could barely understand. Alex, I need you to maintain the connection while I try to access their central programming. This may take several minutes, and we cannot afford any interruptions. As Kelly worked to decode the shutdown protocols, the battle outside Nexus Station continued to rage. Human and Allied ships were taking casualties, but they were holding their defensive positions long enough for the technical mission to proceed. Admiral Murphy watched the tactical displays from her command ship, knowing that the fate of Galactic civilization depended on Kelly's ability to crack technology that had been designed by a paranoid species millions